Welcome to the final press conference for the 4th season of Play More. The season is unfortunately at its end, but we made it to the final battle and you really can't ask for much more than that. We weren't able to bring home the first place trophy, but you know what? Second place is pretty great. You still get a trophy for that. The silver looks great. I have a few silver trophies personally, and I think they look pretty fantastic. It was our best season we've ever had. I'm really proud of everyone a part of the team and really thankful for you guys. You guys have really helped make this a special season, and I'm excited to build off of this. You guys asked a lot of different things that I want to make sure that I am able to answer on my side. Ben's going to answer a lot of questions on his side, and then we're going to come together at the end of this video to answer some questions together. Definitely going to be a longer video, but hopefully you guys are excited for it. But let's get into the questions. Have you decided on your next league to join? Unfortunately, we have not decided on what league we're going to join next, but there's some pretty exciting reasons of why. Tyler recently became a father, and Landon will soon become a father. Really crazy timing. There has been a lot happening behind the scenes with multiple babies on the way that absolutely made the season a little bit more hectic and stressful, honestly. But we really wanted to give you guys a special season, especially considering if we did not do the season when we did it, there just wouldn't have been a Play More season for a very long time. So both Tyler and then Landon are going to be off on leave for a little bit. And when they come back, we will make a decision regarding the next season. But for obvious reasons, there's some bigger things that to focus on, instead of Draft League right now. What can we expect to see in Season 5 of Play More? How has this season affected your attitude/mindset moving into the next season? I honestly don't have a lot of things to say in response to this question, and I promise you that's a very good thing. If the season ended and I had a ton of changes to immediately enact for the next season, that would probably mean this wasn't our best product. And we will definitely go into the next season and make improvements and try to put on a better show for you guys. But I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish in this season. Not just, win-loss wise, we made the championship. That was fantastic. But I really feel like we put our best foot forward with these videos. So I'm excited to have some time to just reflect and get excited for Draft League again. If you do a season back to back to back to back, I think everything melds together and it doesn't feel special. Season 4 of Play More feels special when you really group these 4 seasons together. I mean, this is the one that stands out the most. And if it isn't the one that stands out the most, it's very similar to Season 1. Just very exciting seasons. We had really cool Pokemon on both of those teams. And I want to take some time and figure out how do we make Season 5 like Season 1 or Season 4. And hopefully we can make it even better. Regardless of the wins and losses, I'm just hopeful that we can improve and give you guys the best product. But I don't know what that's going to look like yet. And I promise you, that's a good thing. If you could go back and do the final battle again, what might you have done differently?
If I could have replayed the championship game, there would have been like a few things I would have done differently. I think it's really just 2. I'll do the main one because if I could only do one, it would be this. And obviously killing the Hatterene. That Healing Wish came into play pretty big time. I don't know. It would have been a lot closer for our chances to win. I don't know for sure if we would have won without Bisharp getting that healing. I think it still would have came down to Darkrai and potentially a flinch on Rotom. I don't know. Because Darkrai still wouldn't OHKO Dragapult without like some prior chip and stuff with Dark Pulse. So it would have been a lot easier for Darkrai to win the game if Bisharp didn't get healed. And I wouldn't have to add, tricked away my Choice Scarf. So that was definitely the biggest aspect in the game that I wish I could have just killed Hatterene. I don't know why in my brain at that current time I just didn't think Healing Wish would have been on the set with Dual Screens and Nuzzle. I was kind of like determined on it being an attacking move or maybe Baton Pass, and it's just... I don't know, Healing Wish should have been a little bit more obvious because, I mean, I know it's a bring. I knew he would likely bring it this game. It's just when I saw screens, it kind of threw me off, and I was so focused on stalling the screens so that his offensive Pokemon couldn't abuse it. I know a lot of people were surprised when I first switched into Uxie. I think I would have done that the same, actually, just because it would have limited the amount of turns still, and then switch back into Zamazenta after, because Light Screen really didn't matter. But the fact is, I was more worried about losing a lot more of my pieces to a hard Ogerpong or hard Bisharp after that Reflect, because I would have had to use more resources in order to stop those sweepers after a Swords Dance because of that Reflect. Foul Play instantly does less from both Yuxi and Darkrai, where yes, I could have still clicked Pulse or something with Darkrai, but that's not the point. The point was that Foul Play was picking up the KOs on them after the +2, which is big. Or additionally, I had to use Breloom sooner and give away my Mach Punch and things along those lines. So that's what I was worried about. But the second time I went into Zamazenta, I should have just killed it. Then and there, once I saw that he wasn't switching out and like not focused on being too aggressive, and I burned like already 2 to 3 turns to Reflect, I should have just killed it then and there. And then he ended up wasting his turns anyways and getting up rocks and Terrapagos and chipping down, which it worked out for him because I was forced to Healing Wish. So it was a good play on his part. I was just surprised to see screens and then for it not to be like fully used. The only other piece that I also would have liked to change is if I collected myself on that the third turn, and I stayed in with Mouse Hold and just clicked Pop Bomb. All of my mocks, nearly all of them, it's like, if they wanted to be more aggressive, they click U-turn, and in a situation where you already gained so much momentum in the first turn, getting a para full para, you want to keep the momentum, and that's why you clicked U-turn, and you didn't let Clef come in for free. I should have called out the U-turn, and I should have clicked Pop Bomb, because I either would have done 50% to Bisharp, or I would have OHKO'd anything else that came out. So, unless I got fully parried for 3 turns in a row. But that's the only other thing that I really would have changed. Other than that, I feel like I played the team properly and everything. I know there's a few more questions about like other pieces in the game, so not going to go over those just yet. But
were there any strategies you tried this season that worked so poorly that you're going to swear them off for good going forward? Or the opposite, new strategies that wowed you to the point of wanting to do them again?
So strategies for teams really just depends on the draft as a whole. It's not really too much you're going to be able to implement things from one team over to another, because it also not only depends on your team, but the matchup against the Pokemon that you're facing as well, because you do want to consider everything in your game plan when you're doing these things. Not everything is one-to-one. So I wouldn't really say that. There's nothing I won't use in the future, and what didn't work or anything along those lines. There was nothing I did that was too insane. Trust me, I wanted to do some more insane stuff. I wanted to use Gravity Choice Band, Gravity Sandy Shocks with Choice Band Mouse Hold at one point, but I opted against that. I wanted to do Shell Smash Blastoise with Eject Pack, to where once my stats dropped from Shell Smash, I then go into Mouse Hold and I click Copycat. So yes, I wanted to cook with Mouse Hold is what I'm getting across, so maybe I just need to use Mouse Hold again.
If you could go back and redo one battle from the season, which battle would it be and why?
If I could go back and redo any battle this season, I would go back to the semifinals match, go into Who's room, and yell at him when he's about to Terra Ghost Altaria and say, "No, don't do that. You're going to make the comments section very upset. Just let me win normally." And then proceed to win the game from there and go to finals without any concern.
What Pokemon has been the most fun to use in the draft leagues you've done for Play More? Also, what Pokemon do you think is the best in the format?
The most fun Pokemon I've used is obviously just Roaring Moon. I kind of want to use it again. I know it won't be the same because there's no way it's going to be allowed with Terra ever again, because that thing is just an absolute monster with Terra. But I mean, it was the most fun for that reason, because I could just absolutely click buttons. I could rely on it to win the game at almost any given point. And it was just insane on Sun as well. Like, it was just so good. So, like, outside of that, well, in general, I would say just the most fun I've been having is with my Terra captains. Like, it was Roaring Moon in the first season. Then in the second season was the first season of SPL, question mark? Yeah. Where I had Terra Glacier, and I absolutely loved that. We don't talk about Electrode. And then third season, Terra and Pardos was cool. I don't think it was the most fun I had on that team, though, but it was still really cool. And then this season, it was definitely Mouse Hold and Sandy Shocks. Like, they were just really cool with Terra, and Mouse Hold was just really fun, period. So, all very fun Pokemon. Their Terastization makes a lot of Pokemon more viable, and it's a good time, as long as it's not too, like, overwhelming with prep. Or it's a Pokemon that's too strong with Terastization. So, and the best Pokemon in the format, excuse me, to me, is Dragapult. I mean, I wasn't sure how it would be, going on further into this new generation with Draft League and everything, but it proves its elite speed and its coverage is still extremely important at the end of the day. And it's now twice it's knocked us out in playoffs in the first season. It was the semifinals when we got the bye, then we got taken out by Dragapult, and then I don't even remember. But then we just lost to it in the finals. It's just like, it's a go-to-mon, and you always expect the team to do very well with it because it's very easy to draft around Dragapult. Because you can just still have another Pokemon that is extremely strong with Dragapult, because even though Dragapult's always likely going in between like 1 to 3 first overall, kind of, something broken is still going to make it back. Like, there's so many good Pokemon this generation, so that it really just allows for that. So, will I use it at one point? Probably. I've used it before. It was way early on, actually, in Sword and Shield, so I didn't use it to its fullest capabilities. So I would love, actually, to reuse it now that, more comfortability in how to build with it and making use of its elite speed, its status moves, its pivoting, etc.
In the final, Clefable was at full HP when using Healing Wish. Why not attack first, then click Healing Wish after possibly taking an attack?
Yes, Clefable was at full HP before clicking Healing Wish, and I know a few comments felt like we got nothing out of this turn by clicking Healing Wish immediately and not clicking a move. Now, if I clicked a Fairy move and they went hard into Bisharp, we lost immediately. Assuming they had Iron Head, Clefable gets OHKO'd by Iron Head because it was special defensive. And then additionally, my Zamazenta would have never gotten the Healing Wish. Darkrai dies to Rock Still. So even though it's resisted from Zamazenta and it's really bulky and things along those lines, it's like, the fact is I'm also Para. So they can Para flinch me down and then just get me in range of Dragapult, and it's GG. There's nothing I can do there. Or they could save it and freely switch into like Rotom at that point that can still take a hit and not really have to worry about that Pokemon. Or they go hard on Dragapult. Either way, it's just like, if I didn't get Clefable out immediately, and get that Healing Wish into Zama, there's the chance I lost. Because at the end of the day, if Zama wasn't getting fully healed, I always lose that game no matter what. If they missed the Will-O-Wisp, or if they got really greedy on like some sort of play, then we definitely had a very higher chance of winning because I got the Healing Wish off immediately. So, a few things to consider there, but like the main thing is like, do you want to always get something out of a Pokemon before clicking Healing Wish? Like that Hatterene got a full mile out of me before clicking Healing Wish. And then the Healing Wish was way effective. Yes, you would like to do that, but in some situations, it's just like, you want to save it for later, but then if the time never properly comes to where you're able to do with more with that Pokemon, that's fine. Clefable was going to be like, fully support this week. Like, it would have been nice to click Alluring Voice at one point and get off damage on something, but the fact is that was really only going to be Dragapult in this matchup, and they're never really going to allow me to do that unless they were a substitute set and they didn't expect the Alluring Voice of a Moonblast. So, I wish I could have done more, but at the same time, that turn, I needed to click Healing Wish, because if they went hard into it, could have lost. Same reason with switching from Darkrai hard into Clef, because if they went hard into Rotom, which they did, and I clicked Dark Pulse, and then they just Volt Switch and everything of the sort, Darkrai is then just, one, immediately gone because I lost my Scarf, and then two, Clefable could have been like limited, and I'm not able to work around that, and way too situational.
What Pokemon that Ben hasn't got to use yet would he like to use in Scarlet and Violet?
I mean, I'm not afraid to say it. Yeah, I can get sniped if people want to snipe me, because I think a lot of people just want to use this Pokemon, but I really want to use Iron Hands. That thing is a menace. It is so bulky. It is so strong. I really want to use it. In general, I really love these Paradox Pokemon. They're just so cool. Booster Energy is such an amazing item to really help things shift in your favor. So, there's a lot of like additional Pokemon that I still want to use. So, like, I would love to use Roaring Moon again, not with Terra, just to see how it is and, progress its play more kill history. Would love to use like Iron Moth. I would love to use Ting Lu. I use Gouging Fire outside of Playmore. And I didn't win because unfortunately I got very unlucky in that playoffs round one. So didn't get to win with that Mon. So I would love to reuse it again because it's pretty insane. So a few things that I still want to use from the new generation. In terms of Pokemon from older generations, I've used majority of them. It's just a matter of fact of whether or not I want to use it again, which should just be built around anything new.
When you enter a draft, how do y'all select the Bubby of the season? What are the qualifications?
So this was started by me, obviously, in the first season with Appleton. John didn't even have any idea about this. He had no idea where it was going. I actually thought of the Bubby name in general for our mascot, because I do call my dog Blossom Bubba or Bubby. And it kind of just came from there. And I just love it, because it's like I wanted something that y'all could connect with, and boy, did y'all connect with it, with having the mascot just be part of the team. I think it's genius. Kudos to me. But it's just a lot of fun that way to really be able to root for one specific Pokemon and have a good nickname in that aspect. And then qualifications per se, massive benefit is them being kind of frog-like, or at least green for the most part. Because like Appleton, Cyclizar, and like Breloom, I kind of feel like all are like fairly similar in that aspect, where they have those kind of features. They're green in that way and all that good stuff. Rampardos, for example, though, is just, I want to pick a Pokemon that's like an underdog and that will surprise people and still get some kills. The only exception there will ever be to the Bubby rule of it not being like a mid or lower tier Pokemon that I want people to pop off and really cheer for, is going to be if we ever get Greninja and it's named Bubby, because I mean we kind of have to in that scenario. But I really love it when Bubby is that like underdog Pokemon that doesn't get too much love or is kind of like slept on, and then it's really able to pop off, because I love doing that in draft format. I did it with the fans in this previous season, with Mousehold and everything. So I just love doing that with Pokemon in general in draft leagues. So that's what I really hope to do with Bubby every single season. If they have the benefit of being like green and kind of frog-like, or just being a frog in general, then that is a big plus. But it's never going to be anything where it's like it has to be that way. I will say I would have been Shiny Breloom if it wasn't for the fact it was Bubby, because I love Shiny Breloom, but I wanted to keep him green for the sake of Bubby consistency.
Would aromatherapy / heal bell be something to consider in the future because of all the status trouble previously?
So aromatherapy was cut from the game, and these are all the Pokemon that learn heal bell. Does that answer your question? I am not using Chansey or Blissey, and I am not using Chimecho. I do not want to hear John complain for 8 weeks straight. It was unfortunate that they decided to cut status healing as like kind of a whole in this generation, which really sucks. And there's no like Misty Surge, so because like there's no Tapu Fini or anything like that, so status is honestly better than it's ever been, which is kind of disgusting to say out loud. But that's why I went with Clefable, y'all. I wanted a good Wish Passer, but also having Healing Wish on that Pokemon as well. And Alamola went round 2 before Clef, so it's like I just had to go with Clefable. One thing I do want to just like preface is that we faced that much status because that is the best way to deal with Zamazenta, because it can't have a Lum Barrier or anything. It doesn't have passive recovery and like leftovers, things along those lines, to where if you're able to status it, that really hinders it a lot, because it's like unless it's rest or they sacrifice Amon with Healing Wish, it's like you're getting the most bang for your buck there, because you don't have to worry about revenging it with one specific Pokemon. You can have multiple Pokemon that can now deal with it because it is burnt or now it is paralyzed, and it makes it a whole lot easier. Is it unfortunate that full para comes with paralysis and it's not just a speed nerf? Oh, of course, I absolutely hate it. But I mean, that just kind of happened. In the future, if I were to use Zamazenta again or a Pokemon similar, I will definitely be grabbing a stronger form of Status Absorber. Those are Pokemon where the top one and best example is Gliscor. Obviously, it wants to be poisoned by Toxicorp, so it gets the poison heal. But additionally, then it's not getting burned, it's not getting paralyzed by like glare, because that's the only way you can. And it's not being put to sleep, which is huge. I had that with a poison heal Pokemon in Breloom, but the fact is, in a lot of my games, I really prefer Technician, and it's not a bulky switch. So if they predict that and they just go for like a standard, like kind of like stab move, even if I'm like a max HP Breloom, I am more than likely getting to it KO'd. So you have to be more cautious about your status absorbers. If anything, it would be nice to have like a natural cure Pokemon. That's one way to go around it for sure. Or something that really just like doesn't care about being paralyzed. I know one big thing was, and someone pointed it out at the comments at one point, and I fully agree, is that I use Sandy Shock so often as like kind of a early hazard lead, I don't care if I lose it type thing. or offensive with Terra, to where I no longer have my ground type that switches in on these Thunder Waves. Yes, it's like you can also apply for the fact that it's electric, but Sandy Shocks is definitely more of an electric type than it is a ground type. As weird as it is to like say when it is a dual typing, and it is both. Some Pokemon play like that, and for Sandy Shocks, it's the fact that it's definitely more of an electric type because it wants to pivot more and really make use of its additional coverage in ground. Meanwhile, more ground types are often used as like kind of just a bulky hazard setter that comes in multiple times. Although you can do that with Sandy Shocks, it's not like the ideal set. So it's more situational. So I would say, just like the Gliscor, it would have been better at the end of the day if I had another ground for more status absorbing. But at the same time, this was the first time I experienced that much status in a season. So it was also something where it's just like, I really learned now with this season between Aromatherapy and Heal Bell just basically not existing. And like Misty Terrain isn't really like useful or around, and there's just a whole bunch of other things. It's like you got to be more cautious of it, especially when Glass Shadows had an amazing season, but he definitely used a lot of status throughout the entire season. It wasn't just against us. Like, he made good use of the fact that he had Thunderwave and Nuzzle available a lot on his team, and it really benefited his team with that speed control. That's why Bisharp really popped off, Ogerpon, really limiting the Choice Scarfers and things along those lines. So it was really good for him, and he made great use of it with just the entirely strong team he had. So it really just shows how strong status is in this generation, so I will be more cautious of that going forward. But it's not as easy as it might be with just Aromatherapy and Heal Bell. It doesn't happen.
What's a Pokemon that most people write off as trash that you'd love to use in a draft league?
So although this Pokemon has received a lot of love and has been OU a decent amount some of the previous generations just because of its specific ability and capabilities, that almost sounded confusing. It's Magnezone. I feel like Magnezone is slept on a lot in draft league format. The ability to trap anyone's steel type is huge, or at least force the prep of having Shed Shell is big. And then additionally, on Wi-Fi, you don't know if you're trapped until you fully commit to a switch. To where if you switch, and I wasn't even Magnezone, now you're taking an analytic boosted Flash Cannon or Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, whatever it is. Like, it might not have, like, the strongest additional coverage, like Sandy Shocks, for example, with Steel compared to Ground. But dude is very solid, and then the fact is all three abilities are good. Like, not only can you trap with that and then, like, punish them with being analytic, but then you also have a Sturdy user. Like, Sturdy with heavy duty boots is so good in this generation, and with Magnezone just having the ability to even, like, mirror coat people in that situation, like, that is massive. Obviously it does get, like, Thunder Wave and the ability to pivot with Volt Switch. You can be dual screens, Iron Defense body press sets for stall breaking, and then still having special coverage for physical special split. Like, it's very good, and a lot of people will discredit it just because it's 4 times weak to ground. And it's like, it's a steel type without rocks, which I agree is, like, not the best thing. And it's not a fast electric type. So, like, in those aspects, there's a lot of things that do work against it. But, like, it's a really good Pokemon, and, like, trapping things goes a long way for your team and really forces that prep. I think Magnezone is never drafted enough in Draft League, and I think it's pretty underrated, and it's probably something I'll use in the future. If it's not something I'll do on Playmore, one thing I really want to do is draft Magnezone plus Maushold and reuse Maushold again, and then trap those steals to where their resist now to Pop Bomb can't have a Rocky Helmet because they want to run Shed Tail so they're not being trapped by Magnezone. That is an insane benefit right there. I really want to use that. If someone else uses it, please let me know because that just sounds like so much fun. And I want to do that. And one of the main things that it has over Dugtrio is, well, 2 things. One, it can actually hit hard. Dugtrio really doesn't hit that hard. And then 2, it can live hits. Dugtrio is frail as can be. Magnezone can easily eat hits, especially when you give it like an Assault Vest and things along those lines. So something I want to use in the future, honestly, and I probably will. I'll use it at the same time as Iron Hands, obviously, with 2 bulky electric types, but we'll see.
Do you prefer top point heavy draft teams or more balanced draft teams?
I definitely prefer more balanced draft teams. I don't like it when I have like anything between 1 to 3 points left on the team because it just doesn't feel like that Pokemon's going to be useful in the slightest. But also because it makes it way easier to expect what you are bringing. Yes, even if the Pokemon are extremely good and you only have 7 of them, that makes me as an opponent team building so giddy. I don't care how tough it is for me to like deal with one of your offensive threats from a switch-in aspect or a revenging way, if I'm able to control the momentum because I know you're likely 6, I'm going to poop on you, like more than likely, unless your team's just absolutely broken. I think balance is way better than top heavy. I know a lot of people disagree because they're like, always take the best thing on the board, no matter what round it is. No. You should always have a balanced team everywhere, and that's why I do like points over tiers. I know tiers always allows for fully balanced teams, and that's why John loves it, and that's why he made it. But the fact is, I like points because it really allows for a stronger skill in drafting. Because where if you draft top heavy and you still feel confident and you start getting pooped on, you're like, I have to make changes now. You're dropping over half your team. Plain and simple. And it's like, that's really difficult to deal with, where if I want to make some changes to my team, realistically, I might only need to drop 1 or 2 Pokemon if I'm confident with the rest, and I'm not switching out the top tier. So I will always try and have a balanced team at the end of the day. A lot of the times, I will tell the front office, we only need this many picks left and like 3 Pokemon, and we have 20 points. I'm not going to do this random 13-pointer that's up there, a 6-pointer and a 1-pointer. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try and space it out to where it can realistically get like maybe like a 10, or sorry, maybe like a 9, a 5, and a 6 or something along those lines. So where I can get the most value out of all those team members and they're still going to do something. It can make it really tough at the end of the day whether or not Pokemon can still meet your needs while being in those specific like point tiers and everything along those lines, but that's just the glory of drafting, baby. It gets rough. You get sniped and you have to make do. So balanced over top heavy. Boys.
Will you ever consider doing an Ubers draft league with restricted legendaries like Mewtwo and Rayquaza?
So BBL is obviously going on right now, and that's definitely why this question arose. And I am, to go say it up front, I am not a fan of Ubers, and watching these games right now, very happy with all my friends playing in the league and what they're capable of doing. And if they're having fun, good for them. I do not like Ubers. Not jealous one bit. We were invited by the owner and Owen if whether or not we wanted to play, so thank you for the invitation once again. But one, it was a little bit too late for our timeline. We wanted something sooner, which is why we went with the Mudkip division. But then two, I didn't like Ubers. I'm not that great at it. Additionally, it's been a long time since I played in the Ubers draft league, and I'm just not about it in general. It's kind of the aspect of top heavy once again because they're just so significantly stronger than everything else. It's kind of crazy. And then additionally, I don't know. I just feel like the standard format when we're trying to build up and a lot of people are still learning about draft league, the low tier really opened our eyes that we kind of want to have consistency for a few seasons. So more than likely it's going to be standard format for quite a bit before we hit y'all with the mix again of something like low tier, even though I really love low tier format. It's just we want to, have that consistency. Don't trip people up too much as they're still learning about draft league during these seasons with Play More.
How do you come up with the nicknames for your Pokemon? Is it all Ben's idea or is it from John and Tyler as well?
All the names are from me. Had a definitely fewer One Piece nicknames this time around, which was a request from John a little bit, but I was still having like a good amount of fun with them, a decent amount. We're still One Piece, but still focused to the team as well. So mentioning it after my dog Blossom, I'm always going to do that because I love her to death, obviously. And she's my number 1 pick as well. So, and then we always got to have the Bubby, always. But I do like it at the end of the day where it's like Cheeks and Big Fish. I'm able to make a reference to John's channel. I think that's always big. You guys are able to connect with him more, which is obviously very huge. But very happy that I'm always able to have that piece in like Bubby, where everyone's able to connect with that one Bubby for the season. So I'm always going to do that. If I have a theme in the future, maybe we'll see. Definitely open to it, but I always kind of stick with my One Piece names because I have fun that way. Oh, but can we talk about how great of a nickname Nuke was? I mean, that was all me. That was all me.
In terms of movesets when it comes to draft teams you use, how do you go around sorting both the moves and the respected stats for a role?
I love this question because it's definitely different for everyone that you ask in terms of team building, not just draft league coaches, but also like VGC and things along those lines. But at least for singles draft league, the way I go about how I order my moves and my move slots for my Pokemon, I do have a priority tier list in terms of how I rank things accordingly. So First overall, in terms of that number 1 move slot, any hazards or protect, no matter what, those are going first. I like those at the top. Those are the key. Those are things I do not want to miss. I want to make sure I click when I need to click them. That is the whole point of this consistency as well, to where even if I am using different builds week after week, I know the way I like to build my teams, so I'm less likely to misclick because I'm going to the first, second, or third option because it's going to be in that range no matter what if I look away or things of the sort. So following hazard/protect is setup options. If a Pokemon is meant to set up and win the game, I do love having that setup option first. And then after that is realistically my stab moves followed by coverage moves. Specifically, if they're a dual typing, I'll have either first depending on how the types look out of the 4. I don't like to have the same type move next to one another, once again avoiding the misclick. But additionally, stabs first because typically they're always going to be your stronger move, so that's the main reason for that. And then coverage following because it's more than likely only going to be for a few specific Pokemon rather than the majority of their team. So big piece there. And then following that is going to be any pivoting move. Pivoting moves go there. And then lastly at the bottom, it's going to be any healing. So Moonlight, Rest and Sleep Talk, anything of the sort like that, those all go at the bottom for consistency purposes. So that's how I rank the priorities of where I put my moves, and I know a lot of people have different takes on that. Some people like their hazards always at the bottom for a Pokemon. I ask why you want to hit the down button 3 times in a row when you start a battle. You know, it's like, what is the point in that? But everyone has their different things, and I know people can be very like OCD/ADHD about it or like whatever, but that's just how I feel about it, and it's pretty fun. So everyone's got their own cute, unique things. So
if the team had Uxie over Gyarados and Terra on Sandy Cheeks from the start, how much would the battles have changed, if at all?
So the change with Uxie was actually like brought up immediately post draft because I felt like really confident about the team when first drafted, but at the same time I felt like something was kind of missing, or maybe Gyarados like just wasn't right, like because there was a lot of good Terra options, and I had it in my mind while drafting of like Terra Sandy Cheeks is going to be an absolute menace. Like I feel like I might want to change it to where I have that as the Terra option because I've kind of accepted Maushold as Terra would be really fun, so I don't have to worry about the point distribution there. It's like it kind of worked out to where I could really get it together. But what really decided it for me was like just the thought of Terra Gyarados just sounded extremely strong with Moxie and everything. I wanted to use Gyarados kind of more in the newer age where maybe it can be a little bit stronger with having the Terra available. And in the matchups, it looked like it had potential. Like there were a few games to where Terra Flying or maybe a defensive Terra could give it like a lot of wiggle room to have a Dragon Dance sweep. And it just turned out that those matchups that I thought it would happen, other Pokemon shined instead, and Gyarados really did nothing. So in terms of what would have changed, truthfully, I think we would have had probably potentially a better season. It wouldn't have been by much more. But at the same time, I also would have been very likely to bring Zamazenta, Darkrai, Clefable, Sandy Shocks, and Uxie almost every single week, which would have been very obvious to prep for. So having it in the second half, I feel like was pretty beneficial in that aspect of just mixing things up in the middle of the season.
With this team in particular, me and Ben talked a lot more about the draft, and when it came to this decision in particular, we went back and forth a lot, and there was a lot of different things that I know you were thinking about, Ben, with maybe we switch this and that, and it really kind of landed on the Uxie for Gyarados change and the Terra swap. But I love how it turned out, as it's pretty obvious at this point, and it seemed pretty clear at that point that Uxie was just going to make the team better. But being able to get halfway through the season and change up the team, as you said, it does really change up the matchup. Instead of the opponents knowing 5 of our 6 every single week, now when we have a rematch in the playoffs, we have the ability to really have an even, playing field of like, okay, you've never played this team, we've never played your team with this team. It's not going to be a 1-to-1 rematch. So it is interesting. I think I would usually lean to the side of, hey, let's just have the best roster from the beginning and really learn what happens here. Because, hey, maybe if we start over and we have that roster from the beginning, there's a different thing that switches on the team. But I've really started to think that being able to make a swap mid-season could actually be one of the best potential strategies in draft when rematches are just so likely to happen in the playoffs. And our goal is always playoffs, so it is weird. I do think in draft, if you have a move like this, it could be worth waiting on it if you're confident no one else is going to pick up the Pokemon. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't think we're ever going to go into a season and purposefully not have the perfect team so we can make a swap. But draft does have some wonky things with it that you almost wish you could take out of it, but rematches are tough. When you make team changes, do you think about past or future battles more?
For making team changes, it can range either way for past or future battles. Mainly for past battles, if I feel like there is just a major flaw, like for our second team that we had in the second season of Playmore, pretty ground weak, and that just came into obvious plays in the early weeks, and it was something that I really didn't want to risk towards the later half of the season. Or I could start off really rough at the beginning of the season. I feel like the team's just not clicking with me. Then that's obviously based off of all past battles. Now, we can still be performing well, and I still want to opt to make a team change because I'm focused on those future battles, like how we just discussed, and where it might be better for rematches in the playoffs. Or if I just feel like there's a slight hole that I just want to fix, or someone might have dropped something that I really want to use that wasn't on the board previously. And it's really just trying to figure out like what is best for your final matchups in the regular season and who you are likely to face in playoffs based off of like the top 1 or 2 teams that more than likely have playoffs secured already at this point.
Ben is a lot better than I am at looking into the future. I feel really strongly that you just want to have the best team, not only on paper, but also for you as a player. I've had some of my best teams that, other people thought were the best teams I ever drafted be horrible in my hands, and teams that people thought were terrible be fantastic in my hands. So I think at the end of the day, as long as the coach is confident with the team, that's what matters most. But being able to mix, that mentality with, okay, hey, we're definitely going to be playing one of these 3 teams, and this one Pokemon is better for all of them, or this Pokemon that was better for the early season isn't as good moving forward. I think that's a really fantastic blend, as it is important to be aware of who you're going against. That is some of the best strategy. And you will not know in the beginning of the season who the top players are going to be. Sometimes the projected number 1 team is the last team. So I really do like that blend. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is how comfortable the coach is with the team. I love giving my input with drafting. I feel like I'm pretty good with drafting. If I give Ben a Pokemon that he absolutely hates, my input is not useful in the slightest. And that's where it's most important. Even if a team can be great on paper, is it clicking? Is Ben coming up with sets that he really likes using with that Pokemon? And you really won't know until you start playing. So it's an interesting combination, and the puzzle pieces don't always fit in the beginning, but I think we have a pretty good system at this point.
Mudsdale!
Or Glastrier. At the start of the season, there was talk about picking Greninja over Darkrai, but it got picked before you could get it. Was there any point in the season where you would have wanted Greninja over Darkrai? I'm so glad someone asked this question, as I am way too passionate about this. There is no spot where I wanted Greninja on this team over Darkrai. I love Greninja. I love frogs. There's a frog on my shirt. I've made a draft league team around frogs. I love Bubby. We could go on for a long time. But there's no reason for this team in particular to have Greninja on it over Darkrai. I really love the Zamazenta pick. I thought that was a fantastic Pokemon for our team, and really for any team in Draft League. When you pick a Pokemon that good, every single opponent is going to put so many resources into stopping it. It's going to be the first thing they prep for. So when they have their entire strategy based on stopping that one Pokemon, what is going to be the Pokemon on your team that cleans up and handles the opponent's team in actuality? It's not going to be Greninja. Greninja is way less powerful than you would imagine. It's just not really a Pokemon that can break through teams. And Zamazenta is a Pokemon that you want to break through teams. So if Zamazenta is getting stopped, what can break through teams? Darkrai. Darkrai can absolutely do that with its incredible stats and a really, really solid move pool. But I think what really sold it for me is, well, it was 2 things. One, Darkrai is faster than Greninja. I mean, Greninja has a lot more variety of what it can do and bring to a team, which is cool. But the fact that it's not stronger or faster than Darkrai is very difficult, but also Darkrai is way bulkier and can take a lot more hits. And considering that Zamazenta is a different, bulky offensive legendary, being able to have two of them on the team, I just felt like if we drafted both of them, Zamazenta may disappoint, but Darkrai was going to really over succeed. People were going to be surprised with how good it would be, and it turned out to be the top kill getter on our team. I feel very validated with that pick, and I would be shocked if there was a single battle we had where Greninja would have been better than Darkrai with how essential it was for every game plan, but I'm fine being wrong.
And then as for me, I mean, it really didn't stick for long of me being too upset about not getting Greninja. Greninja is just one of the Draft League GOATs. Plain and simple, I've used it plenty. I have a championship with it. I love the frog. It's just the fact that John ended up being right. The more I used the team, the more Darkrai just felt so good with it. So a lot of people obviously thought Darkrai was mid-cry, and there was a lot of accusations to beat. I never felt that way because I always felt like people were misplaying it a bit, especially with trying to use Hypnosis all the time. Although it is a great benefit to Darkrai, it's a benefit 60% of the time and things along those lines. And we don't take those risks around here. So that being said, I think we had like the best composition for Darkrai, to where I don't think Darkrai can be the best Pokemon on your team in this generation. I think that's where a lot of people make the same mistake in drafting it. With us having Zamazenta and Clefable next to it, got rid of that. Didn't have to worry about that. They were worked really strong together. All very strong, top tiers. Clefable, you might argue, is a little bit lower, obviously, than what it has been, but it was able to perform that way, really do the breaking that it needed to do, like John said, and that's big. At first, I wanted the extra momentum and the extra spikes that, Greninja could offer, but, making that change later on with Uxie, where, we get a pivot and we get extra Stealth Rocks, and it's, bulky, too, to really help out, that's really what the team needed. And also the fact is we wouldn't have to have done the whole Gyarados shenanigans if I had Greninja, because I wouldn't have gotten a second offensive water. But, I mean, Darkrai ended up becoming our second overall MVP in Playmore history and the MVP for this season. So I'm very happy I used it. Do I still want to use Gren in the future and actually have Bubby name of our own and not have someone else use a Bubby Greninja against me? Yes, I would definitely prefer to use it myself. But for this season, very happy to have used Darkrai. Blackbeard was the GOAT.
And to add on to that quickly, it's not that I didn't want to have Greninja. It is just really important at the end of the day when you're drafting a team to draft the best team. Once you're picking something, it's, oh my god, it'd be so cool for the Play More team to have a good frog. It's cooked. Greninja is a fantastic Pokemon. It fits on so many teams. But when you can only draft a few Pokemon that are just that important to the team and the point values laid the way they are, you just have to make sure each pick is so perfectly placed. So hopefully soon we'll have the big frog on the team, but we were in a box and it also got picked before, so it doesn't matter. Can't the opponents just watch the team builders and know what team you're playing so they can make a perfect team to counter it? No.
We play in advance. Next question.
Nailed it.
God.
Which Pokemon do you feel was the MVP for the season overall, and which was the most disappointing?
The MVP for the season was definitely Darkrai. I mean, plain and simple, based off the kills, it was able to swing a lot of the battle and give me a lot more control. I felt confident making a lot of aggressive doubles with it, just because of how hard it was for our opponents to switch into. And it came in clutch in a lot of situations, being the elite speed I needed at the end of the day, especially when Zamazenta, was getting paralyzed and things along those lines. So it was huge in that aspect. Hidden MVP in my heart, Clefable. Loved building around it. It was like solid glue every single week for the team. So just honorable mention in that pink blob. But the most disappointing to me was probably Blastoise. Picked it up for a rapid spin and bulk and being the bulky water and everything. Pivoting, potential shell smash. And I think I brought it twice, maybe 3 times. And it really just did nothing. I'm pretty sure, did I have a kill? No, I didn't think it got a single kill or anything this season. I did kill Pecharunt because I had that Shell Smash set in like week 3 or whatever, and it really just did nothing towards the end of the game. And the bulky sets really didn't allow for too much either. And whenever I tried to use it in mocks, it wasn't helping me towards like my end goal and everything. So I took it off a lot of my mock teams, and I had to switch it out with something else. People were warning me Blastoise has changed this generation. Whether or not like it fell off in this gen, or if it just didn't feel as strong on the team based off of how offensive I wanted to play this season, it might have played a role there. But definitely wish the turtle could have done a little bit more.
I don't have a different answer for the MVP. I think it would be crazy to say anything beyond Darkrai. I do have a different answer for the most disappointing Pokemon on the team. I do think Blastoise was the most disappointing, but I actually think that this season's draft is going to influence future drafts, as when we got to that pick, I mean, there was a lot of conversations of, wow, all of the bulky water types we want are gone. We really need to get one. We really, really want to have some sort of, a hazard remover. So we were able to grab Blastoise. It fit these roles. But at the end of the day, it's just a Pokemon that was pretty destined not to be brought many times. It was a band-aid over a wound that was a little bit too big. And it turns out we really didn't need it. And I'm not sure if the threat of Blastoise rapid spinning away did a lot to deter opponents of getting hazards up. It's just, we had so much offensive pressure, it just didn't work out. So I think in the future, I might rather just say, hey, we have this issue. Let's just draft. Like, we already have the issue. Let's draft around it, get a better Pokemon. I think Blastoise was destined to be in that role. So for me, it wasn't my most disappointing Pokemon. It kind of did what I thought it would do. I was hopeful for one Shell Smash sweep, but at the end of the day, I mean, it somehow wasn't in the negatives, unlike Breloom. Now, I didn't think Breloom was going to be the best Pokemon on the team, or maybe even a middling contributor. I knew it was going to be on the bench, but I was hopeful with Zamazenta getting stopped by so many opponents' strategies that Breloom would come in maybe 2 games in the season and be able to pick up a few kills, as so much of the game plan was to stop Zamazenta. But our other powerful fighting type with the Grass Stab as well was able to come in and just wreak havoc. And unfortunately, that just didn't happen, which was disappointing. I don't really know if it's Breloom's fault. I don't think it's Ben's fault in any way, shape, or form. I was just really hopeful it'd come in and do a lot of cool things, but alas.
Yeah, just to speak on that, I probably could have brought Spore on Breloom like once or twice. It's every time I looked at it, I really just wanted to be really aggressive with like Choice Band or like Swords Dance 3 attacks and click buttons. The Mushroom Frog has base 130 attack. Why would you not want to click a button with it? I mean, Spore's a funny button, let's be honest, but it's not a damage button. Damage is good.
Do you feel like you played better this season, or was it more the team that was drafted that led to a better season?
I think it's a mix of both. I think I drafted better this season in terms of actually getting the best thing on the board early on in the draft with Zamazenta and Darkrai. Clefable dipped a little bit low, but I wanted the better synergy with Zamazenta compared to the previous season where Crocodile first overall was more of a comfort pick. I didn't pick the strongest thing on the board, especially when we had the first overall pick for all of low tier and a busted low tier league, and I should have gotten something pretty stronger. So, I mean, that definitely made life a little bit better, even though Zamazenta didn't show. Just Zamazenta plus Darkrai together really benefited the team. So, and then just other aspects of drafting, I really just worked around something that fit for me. Not saying previous teams haven't. I just felt way more comfortable with this team this time around, and you could see it in the way I team build. I know John was preaching it a lot this season, that I've been building and prepping a lot better than usual, and it's kind of just because of the comfort of the team, which really helped. And when I'm able to build that confidently, and I have all the mocks that my team was able to support me with in the front office, shout out to my boys, I mean, I was just going into these battles, especially those elites, where I knew how these first turns were likely to go. I knew the damage that I was likely to see. I'm one of the very few coaches, I know you can see a lot of other games where people are calcing they're wasting nearly the entire timer that they have because they're calcing and they're getting nervous. They don't know what to expect. And it's like, one, I go through a lot of this with mocks, and two, I do crazy mental calcs. It's like, I've played so much Draft League in my history that where as long as I can guess their EV spread right, I can more than likely figure out the accurate amount of percentage damage is about to do. Shout outs to Joey from all the time I've been watching his Showdown content that just happened over time, because I mean it's where I learned it from. And then, I mean, initially I just had more confidence. Confidence got a little bit hazy when luck started leaving the door, but definitely still felt a lot better overall this season and more confident in the team and still having a good time, which I think was definitely like more like important part of it. I definitely got down on myself a little bit too much in the previous seasons after some losses, but this one I was able to just like not discredit myself too much and just kind of move on and like raise my head and like try and like do better in the next game, because I mean at the end of the day I am the GOAT and I'm not going to let it break me like that. So that confidence just goes a long way in draft league and any competitive scene that you do. You really just can't like knock yourself down too much and just move on to the next one. So
I actually have more to say on this than I would have expected, as it's obviously directed at Ben, but me and Ben have been doing draft league together for a very long time, and for a while I was the coach and Ben was helping create the teams with me, come up with sets, and at the end of the day I gotta go battle. Ben's on the sidelines waiting to hear what happens. And as we, work together for so long in that capacity now, have flip-flopped things, it's really, really clear to me, undeniably, Ben, way better at building teams than I will ever be. When it comes to battling, I think we battle decently similarly. I think there's times where Ben will be a little bit more aggressive than I would like to be, but at the end of the day, we still like having very similar teams. I think Ben can get the most out of a team that we draft together in ways that I wouldn't be able to, which is why I did not like doing draft if Ben was not by my side. We were coming up with teams together. But it's really, really important to have the right team. If you cannot reliably switch into Pokemon and soak up hits, it is so difficult to get the incredible plan that Ben put together to work. Because at some point, they've blasted a hole through your team and things just keep falling apart one after another. So I really felt like this season, something needed to change. It had to be a team that Ben was more confident with and would just be more reliable week after week. Because my thought process was, if he is more confident with the team, the sets and strategies he's coming up with, I'm not even going to know some of these items are in Pokemon at this point. Let the man run wild. What was the Clefable set when you just swept someone? That was crazy. That was a lot of fun. And it comes down to like Clefable is such a reliable Pokemon. Every week you can rely on Clefable. And when you have something you can rely upon in that way, all of a sudden you have a crazy, incredible set that goes with it. So I really do think when it comes to draft and Ben in particular, like from the beginning of Play More to now, I think Ben has been playing at such a high level, one of the best coaches out there. The prep is better than so many people. I think the team that he has in front of him is going to be the most important thing as we go into a season, because I have full confidence week after week. Ben is going to, not only if he loses, he's going to just let that roll off him, come to the next week, same dude, absolutely get after it and dominate it. But if he doesn't have the tools, things can get difficult. If we go into a league and we have something like Hatterene, which is a high pick, and it just turns out not to work the way we thought and it's not very reliable, it's just such a deficit for him as a coach. And I want to make sure, or wanted to make sure with this season and moving forward into every season, that does not happen again. Hey, if nothing else, those first 3 Pokemon, you are going to feel confident with every single battle. And I think good things are going to happen if that's the case. What goes into determining which Pokemon you draft first? Is it just the strongest Pokemon still available, or do you plan a basic team idea before the first Mon is ever chosen? I feel really strongly about this in particular, and with draft, I believe with your first pick, you need to draft a Pokemon that every single opponent is going to have to prep for and really keep in mind. I think it is so essential in draft. There's no way to perfectly balance, the tiers. There's always going to be some really scary Pokemon, and there's always going to be a Pokemon that's the best. If you can get the best Pokemon that you are at least somewhat comfortable with, it is going to make things so difficult on your opponent. And I think that's one of the most important things in draft. If your opponent is really focused on, pick number 1, with how good of a coach Ben is, and in drafts, I've done pretty similar things, your last pick could be your dominant Pokemon. There's been a lot of times where we've had fun with these lower tier Pokemon that can absolutely break up a game plan, but I think they're able to operate when so many resources are going in to stop Zamazenta. And this season, we didn't see as much with the lower tier Pokemon, but especially with like Roaring Moon, the original Bubby has so much more room to run crazy when the opponent is terrified of the dragon destroying them in so many scary ways with those big claws, and now the apple's rolling around having fun. So I think with that first pick, if you don't grab one of those Pokemon, week after week, you're going to be the person terrified of other people's teams over prepping for one or two Pokemon you don't think your team can handle, and not having that on your side for the opponent puts you at such a huge disadvantage. Especially with the power creep in Pokemon, I will never be moved from this position. I'm very stubborn with it. What do you think, Ben?
Two things. One, I don't know about low tiers not doing work. Apparently someone just ignored Noog the Muck this season. I really hope to pick up Muck again at one point. That was such a cool budget poison to use. But in terms of the actual question, for the first draft pick, so one, I'm always going to stress, have fun in Draft League, please. It is such a fun format. If you are looking at doing your best and being as competitive as possible, always pick the strongest thing on the board, unless it's something you're not confident with. Very similar to what John said, and it is the truth. For your first overall pick, it needs to be the best thing on the board. But if it's something that you have a poor history with, don't force yourself to use it. There was a lot of people in the past, as like when Lando T was like top dog and everything like that, some people just weren't big on Lando T because they weren't able to draft around it well. They weren't able to use it properly from an offensive standpoint because they would only bring defensive sets, etc. Then like drop down one or two pegs and just pick the next thing that is like still the third strongest on the board, and it's something that you've gotten multiple kills with in one season, or something that you really want to use and is still really strong. Then go with that. It's because it always needs to be something that you are more than likely going to bring to every single week. And if you don't bring it, it's purely because of the matchup or your game plan, whatever it might be. Or maybe you want to save it for the game and playoffs or something like that, and you're being very strategic about it. But it needs to be just like the best option there. Now, if you're trying to have fun, one of the most common terms in Draft League, especially with new games, DLC, whatever it is new toy syndrome. And that definitely plays into effect with a lot of drafts at the beginning of these seasons. Beginning of new games or DLCs, is that everyone wants to use the new ones that dropped. Plain and simple. Some want to use it for the sake of thumbnails. Others want to use it because it looks insanely broken and we don't know why it was allowed. And I don't knock people for that at all, because that is awesome. And it's really fun to build around teams that way. Whether or not you're going to have the best season because you decided to do that and a Pokemon turned out pretty bad, that's on you. But if you're able to do it and have a good time, then you're able to have a fun time with it. So from a competitive standpoint, always take the best thing on the board. But from a fun aspect, use what you want to use, man. It's really all it comes down to. And if you're a real one, then you just draft Mousehold first overall.
What kind of leagues, rule sets, allowed mons, etc. would be your ideal league?
For me, in this current generation, it would probably be a standard format. Standard, I know, is loose in terms of what's allowed and what's banned, but that's just meaning, more common standard like lower tier Ubers are banned, and it's not Ubers, it's not Little Cup, it's not low tier, etc. It's more standard, kind of like OU Feeling Smogon Pokemon, and everything below that. So whether or not the ban's taken to place, some things I do like to see banned are like the Urshifus and Spectrier, Palafin, things along those lines, if we're like kind of debating what is at the top and what is allowed and what is not, because I feel like those Pokemon are too centralizing and too strong. And then rule sets, John's not going to like it, but I really like point tier systems. I think it just allows for just stronger builds of the draft and not being limited to specific things in each individual tier, as especially with power creep, Pokemon that are in the same tier as each other realistically have nowhere near the same value. Whereas in a point system, everything in that specific tier more than likely is very equivalent in value, just depending on what you have on the team. So that's an important piece for me. Also, it makes free agents a lot easier and more doable. So that's how I see that. And then Terra is obviously a big thing this generation. A lot of people are kind of like moving towards the idea of Terra preview, to where you have one Terra captain or two still, and then they can Terra into anything, and you just tell your opponent right before the battle, this is my Terra. So it's no surprise when you're actually in the battle, but it makes building a lot more fun for you, terrible for your opponent, because they have to think about 19 different types that you could be for that Terra. I'm not big on that. I don't like that. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. I don't like that. That would stress me out like crazy in team building. I'm a big fan of just having like the lower tier margin for these Terra captains, so like kind of like mid tier and below. And they have the 1 stab, 2 additional typings. I love it. I think 3 is the perfect median. It's not too much. It's something that you can still keep up with week after week in terms of, like, from a fan perspective of, like, oh, wow, I don't have to, like, I'm not too surprised they brought this type, or I'm going to go complain in the comment section because they didn't bring this type. It's just, like, you know the 3 that they could work with, and it's, like, it makes sense from the week-to-week basis, in my opinion. So those are the main pieces I look at for in a league. I would say, like, my dream league currently is if we could play national decks on a Wi-Fi setting. Love it. Would love Megas back. Would love every piece of that. So I would love national decks, but with no hidden power, because hidden power is a bad, stinky doo-doo. And then bring back some of, like, the moves that were cut, like Pursuit and stuff like that. I think that would be the most ideal. And then, like, mid-tier and lower Terastallization with the 1 stab and 2 additional types. I think that would be kind of my standard. So
I have a lot of thoughts on this question, but I'm going to try to make this decently concise because I have run leagues before. I ran the original league for a long time and came up with a lot of things that lasted throughout Draft League. The GBA tier system, that was all me. And a lot of my thoughts when it came to coming up with that tier system and a lot of the different things with it was just making sure nobody could break the system. What I was noticing in Draft League is that the worst players would draft horrendous teams. I remember, and I will not say any names, but I remember someone quit one of the seasons because they didn't have a single Pokemon on their entire team that could outspeed a level or a space stat speed 100 Pokemon. That's horrific drafting. That's awful. So I had to make sure that there's a system where ideally, you know, even a player with less experience would still have a reasonably solid team and better players couldn't have a super broken team. But as time goes on, people are always trying to tweak those rules. I've seen people join leagues, make something broken be available, and then push people to let them get the first overall pick. Crazy stuff. So they could break the system. One time, we let back in baton passing in stat boosts because I think actually the same person thought it'd be really, really fun and thought they could break the league themselves with it. Well, the VGC just destroyed everyone very easily with a super broken mechanic. All of my thoughts with this is I really want a league where the least amount of broken things are available, similar to what Ben said with like the Terras. You don't want anything to just run rampant and then someone wins off of their draft. That's not fun. I really want to see the best team and coach win because they were able to outplay and outprep someone, not because they were able to draft the broken thing. No one thought about it ahead of time, and then it's just up, that's that. And I really did not like with Z moves back in the day where it's like, oh, you could have like any of these Z moves. And it was impossible to prep for when it's too difficult on the opponent or just for any player defensively to figure things out and it becomes too offensive. I think it can really destroy the balance. So really with everything, I just want the league to be as balanced as possible. And I want the person to win at the end, not to just be the person who drafted the broken thing that the person running the league absolutely missed. Whether it's me running the league and I missed it or someone else running the league and missing it. You can let me know if you've had similar experiences, Ben. But for me, the worst leagues are the ones where it is very clear early on that something slipped through the cracks and someone's team is way better than it should be and they win. Next season, that thing got banned and, you know, their run realistically just shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's definitely been a reoccurring thing throughout the years of Draft League, no doubt about that. There's been a lot of crazy things that have been allowed throughout the days. And, you know, some people do try to swing it in their favor, like you said. I know someone tried, when joining a league for the first time, tried to convince them to allow a Naganadel and then get the first overall pick. Yeah, so that didn't happen, thank goodness. But yeah, some broken things are just almost inevitable, but at the same time, it is a lot better to be cautious than anything. Especially with Pokemon nowadays when Game Freak is more willing to allow broken stuff to exist, as long as it's not Spore. God forbid we make a decently fast Spore user, or we give Breloom Trailblaze. But, you know, so yeah, when you exploit the system, it's no fun. But I mean, at the same time, that's where it's just like, someone might not be their intentions, and it's just like at the end of the day, it does depend on who you're also playing with sometimes. But yeah, it is important just to have good balance overall. I fully agree with that. And that's also an important aspect of, John, I don't know if you fully agree with it, but it's just like, sometimes it's like, oh, this Pokemon should really be like in this point tier or this letter tier because it should be there. But realistically, no one's actually going to use it if it's in that tier because there's not enough value. Because then you bump it down a little bit. And someone might value that as a steal, and that's good for them. Now the Pokemon's actually getting used. In that aspect, that is a good way of balancing it out to making sure not only do you have enough Pokemon in each individual tiers, but Pokemon are being used and they're being shown off. Because you can easily go like back-to-back seasons of like viewing stuff and across all the different coaches. Although the Pokemon are on different teams and being played by like different people this time, more than likely you're going to see a lot of the same stuff. So it is important just to like change up the value on occasion just so you can kind of push for more unique usage and highlighting Pokemon in a unique way, because I mean that's what makes Draft League way different than everything else. Standard like laddering formats and metas that exist on like Smogon and then obviously VGC, you're always going to want to use the top Pokemon at the end of the day because they're consistent, and counter meta will only bring you so far as they're only against specific matchups. Draft League, the matchups are all that matter, and that's where you can make great use of those tiers in that aspect. So really love making Pokemon shine in that way, but not if it's broken and it's to exploit the system. So definitely agree with you there.
Only because you said you didn't know if I agreed with you. I respond? I'll try not to be too lengthy with my response here, but I do fully agree with that. If things are not let in that are too broken, absolutely make sure something that isn't shining in like tier 1, or if it's, 20 points, knock it down to 16 or, down a tier. I think that is perfect. The perfect league allows for that to happen because nothing is way too broken. Better safe than sorry with the top threats and the top rules. But after that, have fun. And I think that's where if you can be better safe than sorry with some of the main things, the main rules, you can have a lot more fun with that. And then, at the end of the day, hey, if someone was able to get a few different steals and have a really good draft, and it's not like, oh, they just got the clearly broken Pokemon and won, that's really, really exciting. You do want draft skill to be awarded. You want all of these things to be awarded. You just are hopeful that it's not, okay, the team that won, their best Pokemon got banned the next season. It just doesn't feel great. It would be crazy to have a professional sport and it's like, yeah, we're banning Mahomes. He was too good. We're not doing that anymore. That wouldn't feel great for all the other teams. So I would like to prevent that from happening. But I do not want to run a league anytime soon and probably ever again. So hopefully, hey, you find what works. And then the Beneral cooks.
Retirement looks good on you, John.
Thank you. And with that final question, the 4th season of Play More has finally come to an end. It's been a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to miss this, but I'm excited to get excited for the next season. The wait, while it can be brutal at points, it's just going to make the next season that much sweeter. And there is going to be a lot of things to be excited for. I promise you we're going to bring you something special. But for now, we have to say goodbye for a little bit. And until the next time, see ya.